So I'm here with rock and roll icon Slash, and I never thought that A, I'd be interviewing you, and B, about a horror movie. So can you tell me a little bit about how this whole thing got started, Slasher Films?
Yeah, well, I mean, for starters, huge horror fan since way back, since I was a little kid. And I, recently given an opportunity to produce, and it was an opportunity that I jumped at. I was like, oh, great, and went through a bunch of scripts and really liked the script, and so we embarked on this journey. And so 3 years later, here we are.
I have a confession to make. I watched Nothing Left to Fear, and I was just absolutely terrified. Like that first thing where the smoke started coming out of her mouth, I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to get through this. So, can you talk a little bit about like this sort of old school horror movie that I know you're especially into and you kind of want to bring back with Slasher?
Well, I mean, I was heavily influenced by story-driven and character-driven horror movies. And there was the movies that I loved as a kid growing up all the way up into the early 80s, which had a sort of monstrous villain, and you had characters that you really invested, you were empathetic towards, And so that, and I wanted that sort of ominous and haunting, more ghostly, kind of, and not the kind of thing where everything needs to be spelled out in detail visually, but left a little bit to the imagination, and where, and I think the thing about horror movies I love the most is the tension and the waiting to see what the fuck is coming around the corner.
Yeah.
And I think as of, some from the mid to late 80s all the way up until the present, I think that a lot of movies have sort of been focusing more on the graphic nature of what happens during the kill scenes and this, that, and the other. And the kind of movies that I really like have been few and farther between. So I sort of wanted to go back and if I was going to be making movies, make movies that I want to see. It's the same with music. I just do what it is that I enjoy experiencing. And a big influence on the way that this was shot was Rosemary's Baby. It's like, that's something that we wanted to sort of, we use that as sort of a beacon.
It resonates throughout.
Yeah. So, and that's basically it. And I, one of the things is I'm not criticizing, because I talk about what other people are doing as far as contemporary horror is concerned. But that's really what turned me on when I got into this. So that's what I'm going after.
I think the one thing that I found surprising is whenever you hear that like celebrities are doing this like side project, he might be a musician, but he's going to start a horror movie, or he might be an actor and he's going to do. But the thing that got me about this was that you've got a pretty like stellar cast. You got James Tupper, Anne Hesh. You can't really get better than that. So were they just in love with the script like you were?
Well, okay, with Anne, I wasn't there for this meeting, but Anne has a daughter or son that goes to the same school as my producing partner, Michael Williams. And so when we were casting for this, they just happened to run into each other, and she had some sort of nightmare and decided that she wanted to do a horror movie.
Right.
And he was just like, well, how ironic that we need a mother, and you just happen to be at the school.
Wow, okay.
And so he told her about it, and then he gave her the script, and she liked it, and it just seemed like a perfect fit to have James, who is her husband, and so they came in as sort of like a package. And then I'm a big fan of Clancy Brown, so I sought him out. We did a lot of casting for the other parts. Jennifer Stone was one of the people that was suggested by the agent, and she was gung-ho, and I thought it would be sort of, cool to have her go from Wizards of Waverly Place and all of a sudden be this horrific demon. Anyway, and like that. So we had, we did some casting, but it wasn't like everybody. We sent out the script to all these people and had them all. It was sort of happenstance. Everything happened. That's why I put it.
Can you lay out the movie for me? Like if somebody's doing it, Slash has like this production company now, like let's check out this movie. What can they expect when they see Nothing Left to Fear?
Well, it's a young, innocent, religious family. The father's a pastor. There's 2 teenage daughters and a 10-year-old son and his wife. And they're basically asked to relocate to this town in Stull and take over the congregation from the retiring pastor there. And it all seems wonderful. you know, and they think it's the will of God, will go. And the kids are, you know, especially the oldest daughter is a little apprehensive, but they take off over there, and it's this beautiful house, and the neighbors are helping them move in. It's a beautiful community. It's a rural kind of environment.
I'm waiting for your big butt.
Right, but well, the thing is it's really a front for a much more sinister plan, and they have no idea of this, and it starts to unfold, and pretty quickly once it happens, and all hell breaks loose, no pun intended. And being that Stull, the city that it's based in, is a real place, and considered the seventh gateway to hell, which is what's happening here. So I can't tell you anymore because it would be telling too much.
And you know, finally, I obviously have to ask you a little bit about music. Like, are you still doing that? Is the whole thing your new thing?
That's the one thing I don't want the producer hat to impede on.
Is that the producer hat?
No, it's just that.
Okay.
You know, while we were making this, I was doing the record and then the 16-month tour all at the same time. And so I'm working on the next record now. So it's just one of those things that in my free moments, I'm doing this, and the rest of the time I'm working on music. So
now,
I have a record coming out next year.
And looking at me, here's my final question. Do you think that I would make for a better band member with Slash, or a better like horror movie actor?
You know, well, see, the thing about horror movie actors, people are always introducing me to different potential, and it's really the story.
Right.
So you might be perfect for any given story.
As the killer or as the victim?
You might make a great killer, because no one would take you as a killer for face value. You know, so that would be, I would think more of a movie guy than a band guy.
I play a pretty mean harmonica, let me tell you.
Yeah, I haven't had any harmonica.
Right. Amazing. Slash, thank you so much. Nothing left to fear. Check it out.